one night, Trapper, there was a big guy. They're standing on top of the bed, like standing on top, and he had like a long spear. I never felt scared that he would hurt me. In my mind and what I was feeling, and I can still feel it to this day, was he was warning me. Danger, you're in danger.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. And here we share these amazing encounter moments. Angels, we've got one here today, but also prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents, as we say. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Everything we read about in the Bible is still happening today, including angels, including Michael the Archangel, annihilating the enemy, in this case, for a particular family. Episode 300. 300! I'm sitting there talking to Jesus this morning going, it's 300. Anything special? And there's this song playing in my head. I always tell you songs bubble up seemingly out of nowhere, but we know where that nowhere is, and it's from The King and I. That one right there, okay? So it's like, what? And I wouldn't know until the end of this episode what that meant.
Trapper, oh my God. How are you going?
I'm doing great, Lizzie, Liz, whoever you might be.
Yeah.
Before moving to Australia, Liz, her middle name, lived in a place where all the girls had the same first name. Say what?
My first name is Marie. And so Liz is my other name, which is the one that, in Mauritius, everyone used for many years before I moved here. So Mauritius is just a little island, right, off the coast of Madagascar. And in Mauritius, most, if not all Catholics, when they have a girl, they will give that girl Marie as their first name because of the Virgin Mary, right? So Marie. Now that I've moved to Australia, I also have my sister who's moved here. And so she's Marie as well because her first name is Marie. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. And it's pretty early in the morning for me, so my voice isn't quite all there yet. But for you, it's nighttime.
The kids are down and it's like, oh, yes, relax time.
Well, all right. So obviously growing up, you grew up Catholic. Did you ever fade away?
Yes, I did. Absolutely. But this has changed quite drastically a few months ago. So we've lost my sister in October from cancer, and my sister was very, very, very good at with her faith. She would go to mass and she pray the rosary and all this. I kind of feel like I was being prepared for this, for her going and me coming back to church in a way. When my sister was diagnosed, I was 44. From then, I started seeing number 4 everywhere, like 4:44. I would wake up, look at the clock, it's 4:44. I will be leaving work, I'm just grabbing my stuff and I'm looking at the clock and it's 4:44. Or I'm looking at, someone's called me and I've had a missed call and right in the middle of their number is 444. And, I've just been seeing that everywhere. What does that mean? And I had absolutely no idea. And a friend of mine was saying, they are angel numbers and they're actually good, that you are protected and, and your guardian angel is looking after you. And that kind of spoke to me a lot as well.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second here? Can I pop in here for 1 second with perhaps an answer? There is another woman in Australia named Annie. But it's funny, something Annie said to me that I have incorporated for me, and so I understand this is kind of a conversation with me and God, me and Jesus going on too, is that she said to me, the number 4 represents Mary. She's not in the Trinity, but she's close. I mean, she's close in proximity in terms of let it be done unto me and everything, right? And conceived without sin and all that. And I see the time of 4:44. I go to Mary, and it's like, oh, hi, Mary. How you doing?
And Papa, like 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks, hon? 3 weeks? I actually woke up. I was fast asleep. And I woke up from someone waking me up and saying, wake up, it's 4:44, wake up. And I wake up and I look at the clock and it is 4:44. So I got up and I went to the bathroom. I grabbed my phone, but on my screen comes up a podcast about saints. And the episode that comes up is about Joan of Arc hearing voices. And Trapper, I didn't ever listen to this podcast. I'm like, oh my God, like, am I losing it? What's happening? I just woke up from a voice waking me up, and this comes up on my phone. And I had never listened to this podcast ever. And the 444, I feel like, there's more coming. Like I'm in the middle of it.
And then you always check the spirits. You always have to discern the spirits. So make sure it's from the good guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I've had in my life from when I was a child, dreams that to me were not dreams, because I can still see them, hear them clearly to this day. So one of those, my mum was always very, very close to Jesus, and she would pray all the time. She was really she was a big believer. And we all know, because she would pray out loud, and we knew, and every night she would pray to the Archangel Michael, every single night, and to Jesus and to Mother Mary. But the Archangel Michael was a big presence in her life. Like, she would pray and ask for Archangel Michael to defend us. And one night, at the time I was 6 and I was little, so very often I would have come to sleep next to my mum in bed, and I was fast asleep. But I remember that night, Trapper, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was sleeping in the bed next to my mum. But then there was a big guy, they're standing on top of the bed, like standing on top. And he had like a lance. And,
like a sword? Like a sword?
Yes, but like long, like more like a stick with the pointy bit, a bit like a spear.
A spear? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. I got you. Like a spear. Okay.
Right. So, and he was dressed, and I remember clearly, what he had on, and his shoes. There were those shoes that kind of tie at the front, that have the lace that goes all the way up, and they tie at the front, like a bit like the gladiators or that kind of, right. And I remember all of this clearly. But even though he was standing there with this on top of me, I never felt scared that he would hurt me. In my mind and what I was feeling, and I can still feel it to this day, was he was warning me. He was there to tell me, danger, you're in danger. So just to give you a little bit of background, my dad, he met my mum, they got married. Unfortunately, he kind of, became quite violent, and she went through domestic violence with him and all that. Very often what would happen is, my dad would go out, because he would see other women outside of the marriage. And so he would go out, he would drink, whatever he would have done, and then he would come back. And that night, so he came back, and he was really furious that I was in bed with her. And right as I'm having this dream, I just feel someone pull me from the bed. And that was my brother. So my brother is like 14 years older than me. So he pulled me off the bed, and we started running. So he just put me on his shoulders, and we started running. So this was the night where we left my dad. Later on, I learned that he came home and he saw me next to my mum, and he got really angry, and he grabbed the bedside table and was about to throw it on me. And this is when my brother, because the kids then, woke up from his yelling, and this is when my brother just grabbed me and we ran. to me, Trapper, and to this day, I know that this was someone coming to warn me. But I always wondered, who was this? Who was this? And I never kind of found what it was or who it was until about a week ago. And I was just, on Temu, one of the online shopping things, and I just came across all of a sudden a little statuette of Archangel Michael. And I was like, oh my God, it's him. That's exactly the person that I saw with the shoes, with the clothes he was wearing. That was exactly it.
So not the typical big angel looking thing that we normally would see, Michael?
No,
Oh, that's
no.
interesting.
And this is what, this is the person that was in my dream. And my mom always used to pray to Archangel Michael to defend us, And I was saying this to my sister when after I found that picture, and I actually ordered the little statue, right? And so I was talking to her and I was telling her, do you know what I finally discovered? Because I've always told her about that dream. And I was saying, I finally discovered, that it was actually Archangel Michael in my dream, because I saw this picture and I showed it to her. And she said, Lizzie, it makes sense because Mum always prayed to him. And she said, but that's not the only time that he came through for us. And this I wasn't aware of. My sister then told me earlier on, before I was born.
There was this time when Dad wanted to rent a particular home, and the neighbors in that area said, don't do it. There's something in that house. It's haunted. It's got demons. There's just something really ugly in there. And he blew it off. He said there's no such thing, and moved the whole family in there. And sure enough, within days, the eldest son started acting weird.
He was, I think he must have been, I don't know, 12 or something, about that age. Things started happening to him and he started to act like, he was possessed. And he started getting really sick. They would bring him to the hospital, and when you bring him to the hospital, he's fine. Nothing's happening when he's there. So he goes back home, and again the whole thing starts again. So that they start praying with him and use the rosary, and he would just grab it and break it and throw it away, and he was really like possessed. His health was declining because he wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking, and they had even asked for a priest to come in. All of a sudden, my dad just grabbed a calendar that was nearby and turned it around and grabbed a pen and wrote a prayer to the Archangel Michael on the back of that calendar. And then he just grabbed my brother and he said, read this. And he wouldn't, and he resisted. And he said, read it, I tell you, because, everyone was scared of my dad. So if there was someone who could have kind of forced him to read this, it would have been him. Read it. And he forced him to read this prayer. And then he read it. He did once, and then he got it to do it twice and 3 times. And after he read it 3 times, my brother just dropped on the bed, and he was, he fainted. He was, and they all thought, he's dead, and they checked on him, but he wasn't. So he, everyone kind of left him there, and people were praying around him. And my grandmother went to the kitchen to make some tea for people who were here. And then all of a sudden she feels that little hand pulling at her, and she turns around, and it's my brother, and he says, Grandma, I'm hungry. And he's just been fine since. He's been fine ever since.
Wow. An exorcism.
Yeah. And through Archangel Michael.
And through a very nasty dad.
Yes.
The Holy Spirit can do what the Holy Spirit can do. Wow.
Archangel Michael is like a big presence in our family, which I'm coming to discover, The same day later on, a friend of mine at work actually sent me a little a little Archangel Michael prayer. And I was like, wow, once again, not a coincidence.
No, and there's
You know,
that
to
very powerful prayer that used to be at the end of every mass. You may know that, yes?
No, I don't.
There was a Michael. Have you ever prayed the Michael the Archangel prayer?
No, I haven't, but I have to start.
Yeah, Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. That used to be prayed at the end of every mass in the world. And for whatever reason, it dribbled away, and now often you'll hear it in certain parishes who just want to bring back that protection of Michael the Archangel as he battles Satan for us. So that it seems to be kind of slowly creeping its way, thankfully, back in. And I'll tell you who's bringing it back in is us. It's not coming from top down. It is from us up, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's pause right about here. Then more with Lizzie from Australia here on Touched by Heaven. Everyday Encounters with God. Quick Patreon shout out. Thank you so much, Phyllis Merling. Phyllis, a wonderful member of our Patreon family. And there must be a reason why to go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack.
Just because the uniqueness of it, I think, and beautiful and needed, that I wanted to support it, definitely. I don't hear anywhere else these things being told. Anywhere else. I love the message of it. I love the orientation of it. That, we can see God everywhere. We can see God in our daily lives. And that even like the small instances, quote unquote, are not small. They are large. If we could all just have that orientation in our lives, the world would be a much more beautiful place. It really would.
Thanks, Phyllis. Come here to this episode 300. Or you can go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. All right, let's get back to Liz, Marie, Liz, Lizzie, Liz, whoever you might be.
Yeah.
And it's all Mauritius's fault. Okay.
It is.
What about the guys? What do they get?
A lot of Jean, which is like John, or Christian.
And was that, did I hear you talking to your husband? You got someone else there helping you?
Yeah. So my husband's here with me. His name's Chris. So he's not Mauritian. He's Australian.
But he could be Mauritian. Christian.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's his middle name?
Philip.
Which is my real name.
Is it? Oh, look at that.
See, looky there. Philip James. I got a couple of apostles in me, and then this Trapper Jack guy fell out of the sky many years ago, for radio. So there you go,
Oh, Trapper. With all of this happening, when my mom, ran away and left my dad, he was, try everything for her to come back, but she didn't, because she had tried to run away a few times before, and she always came back, but this time she didn't.
So a few months after the family has run away from Dad shows up at Lizzie's school and takes her, basically kidnaps. Takes her to a location she has no idea where she is. There's a house there. She's never seen it before. That's where she's going to be for a few weeks. He doesn't allow her to go to school. She's afraid. She's crying. She says, I want to go back to mommy. And no. She looks out the back. There's woods out in the back.
Not a forest, but like a kind of bush, very bushy area. It's like woods at the back of the house, right? And every day, Trapper, like after a few days, I started hearing like that voice telling me, go in there, go there. And I was 6, and I was such a wuss. Like, I was so scared because, there was just big trees and nothing else. And every day something was telling me, go there.
An internal voice.
It was inside me. But it was talking to me every day and telling me to go there. And I would just not listen because I was too scared.
Meanwhile, the family is searching for her, and they seem to be narrowing down where Liz might be.
I'm very aware that I have a guardian angel, and eventually, after a few weeks of that, my my mum ended up, my mum and my brother and brother-in-law ended up finding out where I was. So they had to, communicate with my grandma and try and find a way. When my dad went away to go and check his mail at his place, then they came and just grabbed me and ran. So, but it was after they came back for me and after they found me and got me, that as they were telling the story, they said, "Do you know how many days we've spent in that wood? We climbed up the tree and we were waiting and hoping for you to come out so that we could get you."
Oh, my.
And I never went in there. And they were in there so many days. They would come in the morning and just wait and hoping that I would go there so that they could just take me. And something was telling me to go there, but I didn't.
That's a wow. That's a wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very aware, Trapper, that I have my guardian angel.
Yeah.
And and of course I don't always listen. I'm trying to listen a bit more. After all this happened, so the school I was going to, obviously then my mum decided that we would just change school, so I wouldn't go to the school anymore. So they tried to get me into a Catholic school.
With everything going on in the home life, Lizzie isn't doing all that well at school. At least she doesn't think she is. She doesn't know her alphabet. She's 6, 7 years old, doesn't know her alphabet, thinks everyone is smarter than her. She goes to mom, I'm the dumb kid. And what does mom always say?
Prayer, and she'd be like, "You need to pray to Jesus, and tell Jesus to help you and to make you learn and to help you to learn things and all that." And I would pray, and every day I would pray, "Please, Jesus, help me to learn and make me as intelligent as these other kids," and all that. And every day that I would have the same prayer. And after about a year, Trapper, I had a dream. And that Catholic school where I was, the name of the school was Saint John the Baptist.
And there's a church right there, too, St. John the Baptist Church, and there's a statue of John the Baptist, and guess who shows up in one of her dreams, in Lizzie's dreams? And there's John the Baptist coming to her. There's kind of this smoke, this something kind of around him, and he says to her, that kid that you didn't think was all that smart, you're doing just fine.
You don't have to pray about this anymore because you're going to do really well at school. You're going to do really well. You don't have to pray about this anymore. And I woke up and I remember, and once again, this is a dream that I remember very, very clearly. And I woke up and I said this to my mom, and she said, "Well, that means you don't have to worry. You're going to get good results, when at the end of the year and all that." And Trapper, this was my first year of receiving a prize at school, because when the results came that year, I actually was ranked like first in all the classes of that. I was like in year 5, and I got a prize that year. And from there, every single year, I got a prize
for being a smart kid.
Yes, and all of a sudden, I was a smart.
That's great.
And yeah. So once again, this was a prayer just being answered, and like him coming to tell me, you don't have to worry about this anymore. All day that day, I kept seeing 11, 11, 11, 11, 11 everywhere. I had been listening to your podcast, and there was this girl from Singapore, and I think she was seeing 1027.
Right.
Everywhere. And she told you that then she decided to check what that is in the Bible. And I thought, I should actually check what 11:11 is in the Bible. And you won't believe this, but it actually talks about John the Baptist.
I'm shocked.
Matthew 11:11.
Okay.
And it says, "Truly I say to you, among those born of women, there has arisen no one greater than John the Baptist." Yet I was shocked, and I was like, wow. And I'm thinking, okay, so when was his birthday? When do we celebrate John the Baptist? Turns out we celebrate him on the day of his birth, but also on the day of his death.
Yeah, this is very rare that he gets 2 feast days, which is very, very rare in the church. Yeah. So it's June 24th, and what's the other one?
And August 29th.
Okay.
And August 29th is my birthday.
Oh.
Now I've decided this is definitely my saint, because it can't be any clearer than this to me.
Yeah, and the other thing it does, I find this always interesting too, how God draws us into Scripture. He keeps drawing us into the Bible, by doing these numbers, or as it was it Joan in Singapore? I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your name. I think it's Joan. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But anyway, how she was drawn into the Bible, how I got Psalm 40, and that drew me into the Bible. It's just interesting how he does that, because Scripture, it's all in there. Everything's, just...
Absolutely.
So cool.
It is. The next thing I'm going to tell you about is when I moved here to Australia,
And you were how old then?
So that was 12 years ago. So I was 33. And one day my brother said to me, do you know what? I'm going to bring you to Bullsbrook Church. So this is a church here in Perth, where one of our saints, she was from there. And so we went there, and I remember I went to to Mother Mary. There's a statue there, and I stood there and I prayed to her, and I really kind of was pouring my heart to her and out to her, and I was saying, I am alone here. Yes, my brother and sister are here, but me, as as a person, I have left my mum in Mauritius, and I have come here. I don't have a job at this stage. I do not have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have someone to share my life with. Please help me. Please help me. And as I am praying to her, I felt a heat, like a warmth, just going from my feet all the way through my body. And I felt like, even my ears were hot to the touch. I didn't know what to make of it. And, I finished the prayer, and then we left. And in the car, I was saying that to my brother, and he said, oh, do you know what? The same thing happened to me when I came here. Just you wait and see. Trap her. 2 months later, I met Chris. And 5 months after that, Chris and I got married. And 12 years later, we have 2 kids. And, this is my soulmate.
Well, you knew quickly. 5 months later.
Yeah.
You were married.
Yeah, we were married. And it's been 12 years. And we have 2 kids. And I don't think any of us has any doubt that, we are soulmates. It was meant to be.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I found jobs, and the people that I've worked with have been really, really good, and I really feel like on that day she wanted to let me know that I'm here with you and everything will be fine. She's been with me, and she's been helping me and blessing me, all the way. I know that. I was saying this to Chris, like I feel comforted every second of every day. Like even when something bad happens, I kind of think there's a reason why it's happened. Something better is going to come after. I don't feel, before I would have taken it like, oh my God, this has happened. I don't anymore. And it's just, it's just such a good feeling. Such a good feeling.
Amen.
So now I just let go and let God. This is what we do.
All right. What's our takeaway, Liz?
Oh, I think to me, the biggest takeaway is I just leave everything in the hands of, of Mother Mary, of Jesus. And, I do not have to control everything, and I need to trust that they are doing everything for me.
And now you have just explained to me why, I talk about songs bubbling up in my head.
Yeah.
This morning, it was the theme from the movie The King and I. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. The King and I, Jesus and Mary. Because it is. You
Yeah.
turn to Jesus and Mary, and they are amazing. They're amazing.
Oh, they are. Absolutely.
Why is it? What is it about Australia? My gosh, the stories that come out of Australia, you don't even know the half of it. I don't know what episode you're back to yet, but Australia is throughout these 300.
Yeah.
Hey, you're episode number 300.
Oh, look at that.
3. There's Jesus. 300. What else is 300? Wasn't there something about Gideon and the 300 and the I'm going to look at everything that's 300. That symbolizes some things too. 300 episodes, and you're it.
That's me. And you have a great day. It's daytime for you now. Have a great day.
Yeah. Good night. Get some sleep.
See you, Trapper.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Liz. What an episode. 300. Starting with, 4. Me? Oh, I see golf in your future. 4. Something like that. Something in there. This is kind of funny. We finished the conversation, said our goodbyes and everything, right? I'm making sure I've got the recording, that everything is stuck to the recording. I got everything I need. And I pick up my phone, and it says 8:44. 44. Hi, Mary. How you doing? The King and I. See, it's the King and I. It's Jesus and Mary together doing some very cool things. And the whole sequence there with Michael the Archangel protecting and defending, and that prayer. Why did Mom always pray to Michael the Archangel? Because he shows up, because this is one giant family on God's side, and he utilizes the angels and the saints, and we all pray for each other, and those prayers move the hand of God, including the prayers of angels and saints. So I thought that was kind of a cool way of showing that prayers are answered. What's your story? Let me know here at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks for your Patreon support to keep this all going. And also, if you like this episode, it would help others find it if you would rate and review. Thanks for keeping us a 5-star podcast. We appreciate that so much. And let's do this again next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.
Philip.
Trapper Jack.
Philip.
Trapper Jack.
Philip.